The ancient palace of Egypt stands silent as dawn breaks over the horizon. Within its walls, Prophet Yusuf gazes at the heavens, his weathered hands clutching a scroll of divine revelation. For decades, he ruled with justice and mercy, transforming a nation that once imprisoned him. Now, as strange lights pierce the morning sky, he feels the weight of his final hours approaching. The servants whisper of miracles in the city streets. Former enemies gather at the gates. The brothers who betrayed him now await his final judgment. A lifetime of trials has prepared him for this moment, when the final chapter of his divine mission will be written. But will his final act be one of vengeance or mercy? The stars still shine brightly as Yusuf rises from his bed, careful not to disturb Asnat's peaceful slumber. His joints ache with the familiar stiffness of age as he reaches for his wooden staff, worn smooth from decades of use. The staff had been a gift from his father Yaqub, passed down through generations before him. Running his fingers along its length, he can almost feel the touch of his father's hands. His chambers, despite his position as Egypt's administrator, maintain a modest simplicity. No excessive gold or ornaments adorn the walls, only carefully selected scrolls and simple furnishings. A small window faces east, toward Canaan, the homeland he has not seen since childhood. The strange light he had witnessed yesterday returns, streaming through his window with an intensity that cannot be explained by ordinary sunrise. Yusuf kneels upon his prayer mat, staff laid beside him, and opens his heart to divine communion. "My Lord," he whispers, "I feel your call approaching." A soft rustling of fabric announces Asnat's awakening. Her silver hair catches the unusual light as she moves to kneel beside her husband. "You've seen something," she states simply. After 40 years of marriage, she knows the signs of his prophetic burden. "Today is the day, my beloved," Yusuf replies, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. "I have been shown that my time on this earth draws to its completion." Asnat takes his weathered hand in hers. No tears form in her eyes. She has always possessed a strength that matched his own. "Then we must prepare," she says practically. "Your brothers. They must be summoned immediately. All 12 must be present." A sharp knock interrupts their moment of quiet understanding. Yusuf's chief advisor, Amenhotep, enters with uncharacteristic haste, not waiting for permission. "My lord," he begins, bowing quickly, "forgive the intrusion, but there are signs." "I know," Yusuf interrupts gently, "the light in the eastern sky." "Not only that, my lord. The animals in the royal menagerie are behaving strangely, pacing and calling since before dawn. The Nile has changed color at the northern bend, shimmering like beaten gold. And there are reports from the desert outposts of unusual wind patterns, spiraling without dust." Yusuf rises, leaning slightly on his staff, and walks to the window. In the distance he can see birds gathering in formations he has never witnessed before. "Send messengers to my brothers immediately, the fastest riders we have. Benjamin is closest, he should arrive by mid-morning. The others, Judah and Reuben, were reported to be already journeying toward the city, my lord. They claim to have been compelled by dreams 3 nights ago." A smile touches Yusuf's lips. "Then the summons has already begun without my command." He turns to Asnat, who has already begun selecting his ceremonial robes. "Cancel the court proceedings for today. Arrange for the great hall to be prepared for a family council." As Amenhotep departs, Yusuf returns to the window. The strange light intensifies, momentarily taking the shape of a doorway before dissolving back into formless brilliance. In that brief moment, Yusuf feels a presence so familiar it brings tears to his eyes. "Father," he whispers, though Yaqub has been gone for 17 years. Asnat approaches with a basin of water and a cloth. "You should refresh yourself before your brothers arrive. They will look to you for strength." As he washes, Yusuf's mind drifts back to the well where his brothers had abandoned him, his first step on this long, improbable journey from slave to prophet-king. He remembers the dreams of his youth, sheaves of wheat bowing, stars in submission, all fulfilled beyond imagination. "Do you regret any of it?" Asnat asks, reading his thoughts as she often does. "Not one moment," he replies without hesitation. "Every trial was a mercy in disguise." He dresses simply but with dignity, declining the royal insignia but accepting the signet ring that marks his authority. The staff remains in his hand as he steps into the corridor where servants already bustle with preparation. In the courtyard below, he notices the first of his brothers arriving. Benjamin, his mother's only other son, dismounts with the energy of a man half his age. Their eyes meet across the distance, and Benjamin's hand rises in greeting, then presses against his heart in a gesture of devotion. Yusuf returns the gesture, a warmth filling his chest. Whatever the day may bring, he will face it surrounded by the family that God has restored to him against all odds. His final hours will be spent completing the circle that began in a blood-stained coat and a dry desert well. By midday, the palace courtyard fills with the sounds of arrival. Dust-covered travelers dismount from camels and horses, servants rushing to attend to their needs. These are no ordinary visitors. They carry themselves with the dignified bearing of tribal patriarchs, 11 men whose features bear unmistakable resemblances to one another, despite their different mothers. From his private balcony, Yusuf observes each brother's arrival, noting how the decades have transformed them. Reuben, the eldest, now stoops slightly, his beard fully white, but his eyes still sharp. Simeon's powerful frame has thickened, the fiery temperament of his youth tempered by age, but still visible in his quick movements. Levi arrives with scrolls tucked under his arm, having devoted his later years to preserving family records. Judah, perhaps the most transformed, moves with the quiet authority that has made him leader among the brothers in Yusuf's absence. Behind him come Issachar and Zebulun, still inseparable even in their 7th decade. Dan and Naphtali arrive together, followed by Gad and Asher. Each man now leads his own clan, collectively forming the tribes that will one day bear their names. In a cedar chest behind Yusuf lies a folded cloth, fragments of the multicolored robe that once provoked such jealousy. The blood-stained garment his brothers had presented to their father as proof of Yusuf's demise. He had preserved it not out of bitterness, but as a reminder of divine providence. They have all come, Asnat observes, joining him at the balcony. As I knew they would, Yusuf replies. The circle completes itself today. Below, Benjamin embraces each brother in turn, his position as Yusuf's full brother, having long since ceased to cause friction. Time and shared hardship have healed wounds that once seemed permanent. A servant approaches with reverent steps. My lord, shall I announce you to your brothers? Not yet, Yusuf replies. Let them refresh themselves after their journey. We will meet formally in the council chamber when the sun begins its descent. As the brothers are led to their quarters, Yusuf withdraws to a small side chamber where the fragments of his famous coat rest on a table. He unfolds them carefully, the once vibrant colors faded, but still discernible. His fingers trace the tear marks, jagged edges where the garment was rent and smeared with goat's blood. His mind returns to that day, the excited youth rushing across the fields to meet his brothers, unaware of their murderous intent. The rough hands pushing him into the dry well. The terror of darkness and abandonment. Do they still feel it, I wonder, comes a voice from the doorway. Reuben, the eldest brother, stands there, having slipped away from the others. The guilt, I mean, should they? Yusuf asks, genuinely curious. Reuben approaches slowly. I dream of it still, the sound of your voice calling up from the well. I left intending to return and rescue you, but God had other plans. Yusuf finishes. What was meant for evil, he meant for good. Reuben's weathered hand hovers over the fabric, but doesn't touch it. Some of them feared you might have kept this as evidence against us, that one day, when our father was gone, you would exact revenge. Yusuf carefully refolds the fragments. If that were my intention, I've had 20 years to fulfill it. A shadow passes across the room as clouds momentarily obscure the strange light that has persisted throughout the day. Both men look up, sensing something beyond ordinary weather. There are signs everywhere today, Reuben murmurs. On our journey, we witnessed birds flying in circles, water flowing uphill in desert wadis. The world acknowledges what is coming, Yusuf replies. But do not fear it, brother. This is completion, not destruction. From the courtyard below comes the sound of children's laughter as the brothers' families settle into the guest quarters. Life continuing its cycle despite the momentous changes approaching. The others are anxious to see you, Reuben says, particularly Judah. He has carried the heaviest burden of leadership in your absence, and borne it well, Yusuf acknowledges. I will see you all formally when the council convenes. For now, rest and prepare yourselves. Today's discussions will reach beyond our lifetimes. As Reuben turns to leave, Yusuf adds, "Tell them I have kept nothing from the past but lessons and gratitude. Today we look forward, not backward." The strange light intensifies momentarily, casting Reuben's shadow in multiple directions simultaneously, a sight both men observe but neither mentions. Some things lie beyond human explanation, belonging to the realm of divine signs that can only be witnessed, not understood. The council chamber stands as a testament to Yusuf's unique position between two worlds. Egyptian hieroglyphs adorn half the walls, while Hebrew scrollwork covers the remainder. Columns of polished red granite rise to a ceiling painted with stars in patterns meaningful to both cultures. Windows positioned to catch light at specific hours create the effect of illumination without exposure to the harsh desert sun. 12 chairs of equal height surround a table of Lebanese cedar, with a 13th slightly elevated seat at the head. Before each place sits a small stone marker with symbols representing each brother's character and destiny. Servants place a silver cup at the center, the same vessel Yusuf had once ordered, hidden in Benjamin's sack to test his brother's loyalty. Now it serves as both reminder and symbol of their transformation. The brothers enter by age, each taking position behind their designated chair. They have changed from travel clothes into garments befitting their status as tribal leaders. Some wear amulets from their years in Egyptian culture, others display strictly Hebrew symbols of faith. Yusuf enters last, accompanied by 2 scribes carrying documentation scrolls. The brothers bow slightly, a gesture of respect rather than subservience. The decades have transformed their relationship from master-supplicant to something approaching equals, though Yusuf's spiritual authority remains unquestioned. "Be seated, my brothers," Yusuf says, his voice strong despite his years. "Today we speak not as ruler and subjects, but as sons of Yaqub, entrusted with our father's legacy." They sit in unison. Judah's eyes immediately fix on the silver cup, recognition and old shame briefly crossing his features. "You notice our centerpiece," Yusuf observes. "Once it was a tool of testing. Today it reminds us that what begins in deception can end in truth. What starts with division can culminate in unity." Yusuf lifts the cup, letting the strange light from outside catch its polished surface. "Before we begin, let us share water as family." A servant fills the cup from a clay pitcher. Yusuf drinks first, then passes it to Benjamin on his right. The cup continues around the table, a ritual of communion they have performed at every gathering since reconciliation. When the cup returns to Yusuf, he places it deliberately at the center. "My brothers, the signs have been visible to all today. The light in the sky, the behavior of beasts, the dreams that have disturbed your sleep these past nights." Several brothers exchange glances, confirming they've shared similar experiences. "I have received divine confirmation that my earthly journey completes today." Yusuf continues, his tone matter-of-fact rather than mournful. "Before sunset, I will be called to join our fathers." Murmurs ripple around the table. Benjamin reaches toward Yusuf's arm, but stops short of touching him, respecting the formal nature of this gathering. "There is no cause for sorrow," Yusuf assures them. "Every life has its appointed term. Mine has been fuller than most could imagine, from slave to prisoner to ruler, from betrayed to betrayer to reconciler." Simeon, always the most volatile brother, speaks first. "There must be intervention possible, physicians' prayers." Yusuf raises a hand, silencing him gently. "This is not illness or mischance, brother. This is divine appointment. Instead of resistance, I require your assistance in completing what must be done before my departure." He gestures to the scribes, who unroll a large scroll on a side table. "First, matters of governance must be settled. Though I have served Pharaoh, my greater loyalty has been to our people's welfare. Arrangements have been made for protection of Hebrew settlements, guaranteed grazing rights, and religious freedoms." Judah leans forward. "You've anticipated this moment. For years, Yusuf acknowledges, but more urgent matters have arisen with today's signs. The revelations entrusted to our family must be secured. There are forces gathering, both seen and unseen, that would erase our covenant from history." Levi, the record-keeper, nods in understanding. "The scrolls in your private collection, those and others," Yusuf confirms. "Some must travel to Canaan immediately. Others must be hidden here in Egypt until the appointed time." The strange light suddenly intensifies, casting 12 distinct shadows from each brother, each shadow pointing in a different direction. The phenomenon lasts only moments but leaves the room in silence. A servant enters, bowing low. "My lord, forgive the interruption. A visitor has arrived, claiming urgent business. An elder from the eastern desert, who says he comes with visions concerning today's signs." Yusuf exchanges glances with Benjamin, who gives an almost imperceptible nod. "Bring him," Yusuf commands. "It seems our council is to be expanded beyond family today." The chamber door opens to reveal a figure who seems more apparition than man. Dust from distant deserts coats his threadbare robe. His beard, untrimmed for years, contains more sand than hair, yet his eyes shine with unsettling clarity, taking in each brother's face with recognition, though none have met him before. "You have traveled far," Yusuf says, gesturing to a cushioned stool brought by a servant. The stranger remains standing. "Distance is meaningless on a day when heaven and earth converse," he replies, his voice surprisingly melodious for one so weathered. "I am called Ephraim, keeper of visions. What brings you to our council, Ephraim?" Judah asks, skepticism evident in his tone. Without answering, the stranger reaches into his robe and withdraws a rolled parchment sealed with unfamiliar symbols. He places it on the table, carefully avoiding contact with the silver cup. "3 nights ago, as I slept beneath the stars, a voice awakened me. It instructed me to document what would be shown and bring it to the son of Jacob on the day of converging light." Yusuf breaks the seal and unrolls the parchment. The brothers lean forward to see a meticulously drawn map covering territories from the Nile Delta to the mountains of Canaan. Specific locations are marked with symbols matching those in Yusuf's private dream journal, symbols he has shared with no one. "This is either divine inspiration or elaborate espionage," Simeon mutters. The stranger points to 7 specific locations marked on the map. "The scrolls of covenant must be divided and hidden. Dark forces gather that would destroy the knowledge entrusted to your line." Levi, responsible for sacred texts, examines the map with growing concern. "These are optimal preservation locations, caves with specific mineral content, dry air circulation. How could you know?" "I know nothing. I merely record what is shown," Ephraim replies. Judah remains unconvinced. "Convenient that you appear on the very day our brother announces his departure. Some might suspect opportunism rather than prophecy." Yusuf studies the stranger's face. "You knew of my impending transition before entering this room. I know that when the spheres align and shadows multiply, the keeper of dreams will join the ancestral gathering," Ephraim answers. "The timing is written in the heavens, visible to those who remember how to read the original language." Simeon rises abruptly. "This is Egyptian mysticism dressed in Hebrew garb. We should not." "Peace, brother," Yusuf interrupts gently. "There is an easy test." He turns to the stranger. "These symbols marking the sacred depositories explain their meaning." Without hesitation, Ephraim details interpretations identical to those in Yusuf's private records, explanations of dream symbols that Yusuf has never shared. Benjamin gasps softly. Even the most skeptical brothers exchange troubled glances. Yusuf carefully re-rolls the map. "The locations match conclusions I reached through prayer and wisdom. That you bring confirmation on this day cannot be coincidence. There is no such thing as coincidence in divine economy," Ephraim says. "Only convergence of purpose." He turns to address all the brothers. "You must act swiftly. Before the next new moon, those who oppose heaven's covenant will begin systematic destruction of sacred knowledge. What is not secured by sunset today may be lost forever." "Who are these enemies?" Reuben demands. "Some wear human form but harbor older spirits. Others serve earthly masters while believing they serve truth. All are bound by the same purpose, to sever humanity's connection to divine revelation." The strange light outside suddenly dims, casting the chamber in momentary darkness before returning with greater intensity. "The time grows short," Ephraim says. "Divide your forces wisely, sons of Jacob. Some must secure the scrolls. Others must prepare for the keeper's transition. All must strengthen their resolve against what comes after." He steps back from the table. "I have completed my assignment. The rest belongs to those chosen by bloodline and covenant." Before anyone can respond, the stranger moves toward the door with surprising speed for one so apparently frail. At the threshold he pauses, turning back to Yusuf. When you cross over, tell the Father of Nations that his descendants remember. Even after 400 years of bondage, they will remember. With that cryptic message, he disappears into the corridor. A servant sent immediately after him returns bewildered, reporting no sign of the visitor in any direction. Yusuf breaks the stunned silence. Divide the map into sections. Each of you will safeguard different knowledge. No single brother should know all locations, a precaution against weakness or capture. As he tears the map into precisely measured fragments, the silver cup at the center of the table begins to vibrate, producing a pure tone that fills the chamber with harmonic resonance. Midday heat shimmers above the marketplace as Yusuf arrives with his brothers. The great bronze scale, his personal emblem of justice from the famine years, has been brought from the granary and placed at the center of the square. For 2 decades, this scale has symbolized his fair governance, measuring grain with the same precision for nobles and beggars alike. Word of his presence spreads rapidly through the crowded bazaar. Merchants abandon their stalls, farmers set down their produce, craftsmen lay aside their tools. Children push forward for a better view, unhindered by parents who normally enforce strict propriety in the presence of the king's vizier. Yusuf has dispensed with formal procession or announcements. His simple appearance alongside his brothers creates more genuine reverence than any orchestrated ceremony. The people remember how his divine foresight saved Egypt and surrounding nations from starvation. "My people," he begins, his voice carrying effortlessly across the hushed marketplace. "For 20 years I have served as steward of Egypt's abundance. Together we weathered 7 years of plenty, preparing wisely for 7 years of famine." Murmurs of agreement ripple through the crowd. Elderly Egyptians nod emphatically, having lived through those difficult years. "Today I come not as administrator, but as fellow traveler on life's brief journey." His hand rests on the scale, the perfect balance of its empty trays, reflecting his lifelong pursuit of equity. "Before sunset, I will be called to join my ancestors. This is not cause for mourning, but for completing what remains unfinished." Gasps and cries of dismay rise from the crowd. A woman calls out, "Who will protect us from future hardship?" "The same divine wisdom that guided us before," Yusuf answers. "I was merely its vessel. That wisdom remains available to all who seek it with sincere hearts." He gestures toward his brothers. "These men will continue as guardians of the covenant between heaven and earth. Honor them as you have honored me." Suddenly, Yusuf's posture changes. His eyes widen, fixing on something invisible to others. His hand tightens on the scale, knuckles whitening with pressure. Benjamin moves to support him, but Yusuf remains standing through visible effort. His hand tightens on the scale, knuckles whitening with pressure. Benjamin moves to support him, but Yusuf remains standing through visible effort. The marketplace falls completely silent as everyone senses the extraordinary nature of this moment. When Yusuf speaks again, his voice carries different harmonics, deeper, more resonant, as though multiple voices speak through him. "A deliverer will arise from among my people when bondage becomes unbearable. Water will part before him, fire will guide by night, stone will yield wisdom, written by divine finger." His gaze shifts, focusing on a different plane of vision. "From the house of David will come the shepherd king, whose psalms will comfort generations. After him, wisdom and folly will war for the heart of Israel." The strange light that has persisted throughout the day now concentrates above the marketplace, casting no shadows despite its brightness. "Prophets will call you back to covenant when kings fail. Exile will purify what prosperity corrupts. Return will prepare the way." His voice drops to nearly a whisper, forcing the crowd to lean forward. "Then fullness of time will birth the word among you. What began in garden will complete on tree. What was lost through fruit will be restored through bread and wine." Just as suddenly as it began, the prophetic episode passes. Yusuf blinks, returning to normal awareness, though clearly drained by the experience. A disturbance erupts at the edge of the crowd. A man pushes violently toward Yusuf, blade glinting in the strange light. Before guards can react, Judah intercepts the assailant, deflecting the knife with his forearm and suffering a deep gash. Reuben and Simeon immediately subdue the would-be assassin. The attacker, a minor priest from a temple dedicated to Egyptian deities, spits toward Yusuf. "Death to the Hebrew who undermines our gods. Your monotheism weakens Egypt." Rather than retreating to safety, Yusuf approaches the restrained man. The crowd falls silent again, witnessing a moment they will recount to future generations. If your gods are real, they have nothing to fear from truth, Yusuf says gently. If they are not, your devotion is misplaced. He examines Judah's wound, then turns back to the assailant. You are forgiven. No further punishment will come to you through my authority. Turning to the astonished crowd, he adds, remember this, vengeance perpetuates darkness. Only mercy breaks its cycle. As Yusuf and his brothers depart the marketplace, the strange light follows them like a living canopy. Behind them, the would-be assassin kneels in the dust, weeping for reasons he cannot articulate. Beneath the palace lies a network of chambers unknown to most Egyptians. Unlike the grand tombs built for pharaohs, these rooms blend Hebrew simplicity with Egyptian engineering. Torch-bearing servants lead Yusuf and selected brothers, Benjamin, Judah, Levi, and Reuben, down worn stone stairs that spiral deep into bedrock. The others have their assignments. Yusuf asks Benjamin, yes. Simeon leads a group to secure the northern boundary. The remaining brothers prepare the household for evening revelations. Their footsteps echo in narrow corridors where hieroglyphs gradually give way to Hebrew characters. The air grows cooler, touched with mineral scents and ancient dust. Finally, they reach a bronze door inlaid with symbols representing the 12 tribes. Yusuf presses his signet ring into a central indentation. Internal mechanisms respond with metallic sounds, and the massive door swings inward on perfectly balanced hinges. Few living eyes have seen this chamber, he tells his brothers as they enter. Even Pharaoh respects its privacy. The room defies expectations. Rather than gold or treasures, simple cedar shelves line the walls, holding clay tablets, papyrus scrolls, and small artifact boxes. At the center stands a single pedestal supporting a leather-bound journal, Yusuf's record of divine dreams. This represents our family's true wealth, Yusuf explains, gesturing toward the shelves. Knowledge preserved since Adam, gathered by our fathers, entrusted to us as guardians. The brothers move carefully through the chamber, reverently observing but touching nothing without permission. Levi, the family's designated keeper of records, marvels at tablets predating Abraham. Yusuf retrieves his dream journal from the pedestal. This contains interpretations of every significant dream from my youth until yesterday. The patterns reveal divine language written in symbols of sleep. He opens to early pages, pointing to drawings of stars and sheaves of wheat. Here are the dreams that provoked your jealousy. See how precisely they foretold our present reality. The brothers gather around, examining the detailed illustrations and interpretations. Many entries include calculations of time, days, months, years before fulfillment. I was not shown only my own path, Yusuf continues, turning to later pages. Here are dreams concerning each of your lines, extending to generations yet unborn. He indicates sections marked with their individual names. Each brother discovers predictions about their descendants, some glorious, others troubling. The dreams are not fixed destiny, Yusuf cautions. They are pathways revealed. How your descendants walk them depends on their choices. Judah studies a page showing a scepter and crown. This suggests royalty from my line. And burden alongside authority, Yusuf confirms. Great responsibility accompanies every blessing. Moving beyond the journal, Yusuf directs their attention to specific artifacts. He selects 12 small boxes, each inscribed with a brother's name. These contain physical elements connected to your individual destinies. They must be preserved separately from written records, a precaution against those who would erase our covenant from history. Benjamin examines a simple clay vessel. These seem ordinary objects, not treasures. The most profound truths often wear humble garments, Yusuf replies. What matters is not their appearance but their connection to divine revelation. Reuben notices a sealed section at the chamber's rear. What lies beyond that wall? The future, Yusuf answers simply. Space prepared for records not yet written, artifacts not yet created. Our story continues beyond my departure. He closes his journal, returning it to the pedestal. Each of you will take specific items today, memorize their significance but document nothing that could guide enemies to their locations. Carefully, he assigns different artifacts to each brother present. Those with you will share responsibility for separate knowledge. No single person should possess the entire legacy. As they prepare to depart, Yusuf pauses before a small alcove containing a clay lamp, kept continuously burning since the chamber's creation. Our father Yaqub taught that divine light never extinguishes completely, even in deepest darkness. Remember this during the difficult years ahead. The strange atmospheric light that has followed them throughout the day suddenly penetrates even this underground chamber, briefly illuminating every corner before receding. "We must hurry," Yusuf says, gathering his assigned artifacts. "Pharaoh awaits us, and time grows short." They exit solemnly, each carrying pieces of their shared heritage, physical links to both past and future. Behind them, the bronze door seals automatically, preserving secrets until the appointed time for their revelation. The royal procession arrives with less ceremony than would normally accompany Egypt's living god. Pharaoh has respected Yusuf's request for discretion, bringing only essential guards and advisors. Age has bent the once towering ruler, whose face now bears deep lines of experience beneath his ceremonial headdress. They meet in the garden courtyard, rather than the throne room, neutral ground that acknowledges both men's authority while favoring neither. Date palms provide shade from the afternoon sun, though the strange celestial light continues to cast unusual patterns through their fronds. "So it is true," Pharaoh says after studying Yusuf's face, "the rumors in the palace, the signs in the sky. You are leaving us. My time completes today," Yusuf confirms. "I wanted to thank you personally for your trust these many years." The two men sit on simple stone benches facing each other. Between them rests the royal seal, a gold scarab beetle embedded in lapis lazuli that Pharaoh had given Yusuf when appointing him administrator of Egypt. "You could have used this to build personal empire," Pharaoh observes, gesturing toward the seal. "Many in your position would have. Power was never my purpose," Yusuf replies, "only service to divine will. Your God has served Egypt well through you." Pharaoh sighs deeply. "I wonder if he will continue to favor us after your departure." Yusuf leans forward. "That depends on how Egypt treats my people in coming generations. The covenant extends protection to those who respect it." A shadow passes over Pharaoh's face. "There are factions in the priesthood who resent Hebrew influence. They have pressed me for years to restrict your people's freedoms, and yet you resisted, out of respect for you. But my successor may see things differently." Yusuf retrieves a sealed document from his robe. "I have prepared succession plans for Hebrew governance. My brothers will maintain separate leadership while remaining loyal to Egypt's crown." Pharaoh accepts the document but doesn't open it. "Will it be enough? Already there are whispers about your people's growth. Some see threat where I see strength." "The choice lies with Egypt," Yusuf says gently. "Blessing or burden will follow that choice." They fall silent as a servant brings wine. After the ritual tasting for poison, maintained despite their mutual trust, both men drink slowly, appreciating the moment's significance. "Who will interpret my dreams now?" Pharaoh asks, attempting lightness but revealing genuine concern. The gift passes to Benjamin. He has been trained in the symbolic language. Pharaoh nods, then gestures toward the sky where the strange light continues its unusual patterns. "And this phenomenon, does your departure cause such disturbance in the heavens?" "Not my worth, but my function," Yusuf explains. "Certain roles carry cosmic significance beyond the individual filling them. The light marks transition of covenant guardianship." The elderly ruler studies the phenomenon with newfound understanding. "I have witnessed 7 decades of Egyptian magic, yet nothing comparable to your Hebrew mysteries." "Different sources, different manifestations," Yusuf replies diplomatically. Pharaoh's gaze returns to the seal between them. "What shall I do with this after today?" "It returns to your keeping," Yusuf answers. "My sons have their own calling, not in governance but preservation of sacred knowledge." With visible effort, Pharaoh straightens his posture. "Then let us complete the transfer of authority properly." He motions to his advisors, who bring forward official scrolls. One by one, Yusuf's administrative responsibilities are formally reassigned to carefully selected officials, some Egyptian, some Hebrew, all chosen for integrity rather than political advantage. As the final document receives Pharaoh's mark, the elderly ruler suddenly grasps Yusuf's arm with surprising strength. "I would have named you successor had our blood been shared," he confesses quietly. "Egypt has not known your equal in my lifetime. Your dynasty will continue through your son," Yusuf assures him. "But remember my warning, Egypt's future brightness depends on how it treats the children of Israel." Pharaoh rises, signaling the conclusion of their meeting. As royal protocol demands, Yusuf bows, though less deeply than court custom requires, maintaining the delicate balance they have negotiated throughout their relationship. "May your journey to the afterlife bring you peace," Pharaoh says formally. "And may your remaining years bring wisdom to Egypt," Yusuf responds. The royal procession departs as it came, with dignified restraint rather than elaborate ceremony. Yusuf watches until they disappear from view, the royal seal now returned to its original owner, his official service to Egypt formally concluded. As if acknowledging this transition, the strange light briefly intensifies, then shifts its focus toward the eastern wing of the palace, where Yusuf's private chambers await his return. The palace gardens offer rare privacy as afternoon shadows lengthen. Yusuf and Asnat walk familiar paths they have traversed countless times during their 40 years of marriage. Flowering plants from distant lands, gifts from grateful rulers saved by Egypt's grain during famine, create a tapestry of colors and scents you've known all along, Yusuf observes, studying his wife's serene expression. Asnat touches the simple copper bracelet on her wrist, their marriage token exchanged when she was the young daughter of an Egyptian priest and he a newly freed prisoner with strange prophetic gifts. "Since before we wed," she confirms, "the night my father introduced us, I dreamt of this day. I saw you surrounded by light, ascending while I remained. I chose to accept those terms when I accepted your proposal." Yusuf takes her hand, the bracelet cool against his fingers. "You never spoke of this. What purpose would it have served? Every day with you has been gift enough." They pause beside a reflecting pool, where lotus blossoms float on still water. Their aged reflections ripple slightly with a passing breeze, a fitting metaphor for life's impermanence. "The brothers are preparing according to your instructions," Asnat continues, "but I sense you have separate guidance for me." Yusuf nods. "The covenant passes primarily through male lineage, but certain wisdom is preserved through women. Knowledge too subtle for scrolls and tablets. The heart truths," Asnat says with understanding. "Exactly. Men preserve the structure of faith, but women maintain its living essence." He leads her to a simple stone bench, partly concealed by flowering vines. "What I share now must transfer to our daughters and their daughters after them." From his robe, Yusuf produces a small linen pouch. Inside rests an unadorned silver ring bearing unusual engravings inside its band. "This belonged to my grandmother. Before that it was Rachel's, my mother. It contains teachings meant only for women of our covenant." Asnat accepts the ring reverently. "What must I guard?" Three principles that balance the formal teachings. First, compassion precedes judgment, always. Second, questions honor God as much as answers. Third, covenant includes all humanity, though it flows through chosen vessels. Asnat slides the ring onto her finger. These seem simple truths, yet each generation of men tends to forget them. Yusuf replies with a gentle smile. "The masculine tendency toward rigid interpretation requires feminine wisdom as counterbalance. Without both energies, covenant becomes either formless or lifeless." The strange light that has followed Yusuf throughout the day now catches the ring, causing its simple metal to glow with unexpected brilliance. "There will be difficult times ahead for our people," Yusuf continues, "centuries when formal leadership fails them. During such periods, grandmothers teaching granddaughters by hearthside will preserve what temples cannot. I will ensure this knowledge continues," Asnat promises. They continue walking, passing beneath a trellis, heavy with ripening grapes. Asnat plucks one, offering it to Yusuf in a gesture reminiscent of their courtship. "Tell me truly," she says as he accepts the fruit, "have you regretted choosing an Egyptian wife? Would a daughter of your own people have been more suitable for a covenant-bearer?" Yusuf's answer comes without hesitation. "You were divinely appointed for me. Our union symbolizes a truth too often forgotten, that separation between peoples contradicts heaven's design." He stops walking, turning to face her directly. "When the time comes, do not follow Egyptian burial customs for me. My body must return to Canaan eventually, to rest with my fathers. I have already instructed the embalmers in Hebrew methods," Asnat assures him. "All is prepared according to your tradition." Yusuf blinks in surprise. "You anticipated even this." 40 years of loving a prophet teaches one to prepare ahead," she replies with gentle humor. Now what blessing would you leave for me and the women who come after? Yusuf places his hands on her shoulders, an intimate gesture they have shared through decades of partnership. May your wisdom flourish when men's certainties falter. May your compassion heal when rules create wounds. May your questions preserve truth when answers become rigid. As he speaks, the strange light surrounds them both, creating a private illumination that separates them momentarily from the surrounding world. I ask one promise in return, Asnat says quietly, anything within my power. When you cross beyond the veil, remember us not only in your prayers but in your joy. We will continue your earthly work, you continue loving us from beyond. That requires no promise, Yusuf responds. It is as inevitable as breath. They embrace as the garden fills with golden afternoon light, both natural sunset and the supernatural illumination that has marked this extraordinary day. Massive stone pillars cast long shadows across the temple courtyard. Despite decades of Yusuf's influence, this particular sanctuary remains dedicated to Ra, its inner chambers housing idols of varying sizes. The largest, a golden statue with falcon head and human body, gleams in fading sunlight, adorned with precious stones and elaborate offerings. Yusuf stands at the temple entrance with Judah, Levi, and Benjamin. Temple guards regard them with suspicion, but dare not block the vizier's path, even on this unusual day, when rumors of strange occurrences spread throughout the city. Must we enter this place of false worship? Judah asks quietly. It seems unfit for your final hours. Some battles must be concluded before transition. Yusuf replies, this represents my longest struggle in Egypt, against idolatry's darkness. The high priest of Ra approaches, his ceremonial headdress adding imposing height to his slender frame. Gold ankh symbols hang from his neck, jingling softly with each step. The administrator honors us with his presence, the priest says, his tone carefully balanced between respect and resentment. Though we receive no notice of official visitation. I come not as administrator today, Nakthi, Yusuf responds. Pharaoh has accepted my resignation from state duties. A gleam of satisfaction crosses the priest's features. Then you stand on consecrated ground as merely a Hebrew, subject to temple authority. I stand as covenant-bearer before I am anything else, Yusuf corrects gently, and it is in that capacity I have come to deliver final warning. He gestures toward the golden idol visible through the temple's inner doorway. For 30 years I have respectfully suggested that knowing the Creator surpasses worshipping the created. Today I state it plainly. These lifeless objects cannot save Egypt. The high priest's expression hardens. You overstep, Hebrew. Pharaoh may have favored your foreign god, but Ra has ruled this land since before your people existed. Levi steps forward, scholarly authority evident in his bearing. Records in our possession date divine revelation to the world's creation, preceding your earliest dynasty by millennia. Convenient claims without evidence, the priest scoffs. Meanwhile, our golden lord stands manifest before all eyes. Gold crafted by human hands remains merely metal, Benjamin observes. Its value comes from scarcity, not divinity. The high priest signals to subordinates, who move to form a barrier between the Hebrews and the inner sanctuary. You have delivered your message. Now depart before we consider this a desecration requiring response. Instead of retreating, Yusuf walks forward with calm certainty. The younger priests hesitate, unwilling to physically obstruct the man who saved Egypt from famine, regardless of their superiors' obvious wishes. I have respected Egyptian customs throughout my service, Yusuf says, addressing all present. I have honored Pharaoh's position and worked alongside your institutions without imposing my beliefs, but truth must be spoken clearly at life's conclusion. He points toward the golden idol. That object cannot hear prayers, cannot respond to suffering, cannot provide wisdom for living. It merely reflects your own thoughts back to you, gleaming but empty. Blasphemy, the high priest hisses, though notably without calling for Yusuf's arrest. If I speak falsely, let your God strike me down, Yusuf responds. I stand unprotected before his image. The strange light that has followed Yusuf throughout the day suddenly intensifies, streaming through the temple's open ceiling to illuminate him, while casting the golden idol into relative shadow. Several younger priests fall to their knees, recognizing a manifestation beyond their understanding. "What sorcery is this?" the high priest demands, though his voice trembles. "No sorcery, simply the true light revealing the false," Judah answers. A young acolyte steps forward hesitantly. "My lord Yusuf, some of us have questioned in secret. We observe rituals outwardly, while inwardly seeking greater truth. Could your God accept Egyptian followers?" Before the high priest can silence him, Yusuf approaches the young man. "The Creator made all nations from one source. The covenant extends its blessing to all who recognize divine unity. Do not poison their minds with your foreign doctrine," the high priest demands, finally finding his authoritative voice. But several other priests have moved closer, their expressions revealing long-harbored doubts about their religious practices. "The living God requires no temple built by hands," Yusuf tells them. "Your own heart is his preferred dwelling place. Conscience is his voice within you. Compassionate action is your true offering." The strange light shifts to illuminate the golden idol fully, revealing imperfections in its craftsmanship previously hidden by careful positioning and limited viewing angles. "I leave you with choice, not command," Yusuf concludes. "Continue as before if conscience allows, but know that an alternative exists, worship of the unseen Creator rather than visible creation." As Yusuf and his brothers depart, the temple courtyard divides. Half the priests following the high priest in formal prostration before the idol, others standing silently, faces turned toward the strange light still visible in the sky. Heat shimmers above sand as Yusuf leads a small group beyond the city boundaries. Judah, Reuben, Simeon, and Benjamin accompany him, each carrying scrolls and artifacts from the family vault. Their destination lies several miles east, a journey undertaken without horses or chariots, despite Yusuf's exalted position. "Walking reminds us of human fragility," he explains, noting Benjamin's questioning glance toward the stabled royal horses they passed. "Appropriate for today's purpose." From his belt hangs a simple water skin, not the ornate vessels normally carried by court officials, but a weathered goatskin container, mended multiple times. This humble object has accompanied him since his early imprisonment. As they walk, the water skin occasionally brushes against Yusuf's side, a physical reminder of lessons learned through deprivation. The brothers eye it with recognition. They understand its significance, though none mention it directly. The strange celestial light continues overhead, moving with them like a personal escort. Egyptian farmers working nearby observe the phenomenon with awe, bowing as the Hebrew party passes. "How much farther?" Simeon asks after an hour's journey. Though still strong for his age, the desert heat taxes him more than when they last traversed these lands decades earlier. "Just beyond that ridge," Yusuf answers, pointing toward a rocky outcropping. "We make our final stop where everything began." Understanding dawns on the brothers' faces. Reuben's complexion pales slightly. "The well," Yusuf nods, "the very place." They continue in silence, each man wrestling with private memories of that pivotal day when jealousy overcame brotherhood. The path grows steeper, feet sliding occasionally on loose stones. Despite his age and status, Yusuf moves with surprising agility, familiar with this landscape that marked his life's dramatic turning point. Finally, they reach a circular stone structure, partially collapsed from years of neglect. Desert winds have nearly buried half its circumference in shifting sand, but enough remains visible to confirm its identity. "I never thought to see this place again," Judah murmurs. "Nor I," Yusuf replies. "Yet divine paths often circle back to beginnings." He approaches the well's edge, gesturing for his brothers to join him. From its depth, cool air rises in welcome contrast to the desert heat. "This is where you cast me," he says matter-of-factly, without accusation. Empty of water but not of purpose. The brothers stand uncomfortably, ancient guilt resurfacing despite years of reconciliation. Yusuf removes the water skin from his belt, holding it where all can see. "When the Midianite traders pulled me from this darkness, one showed unexpected kindness. He offered this skin with enough water for one day's survival. He unstoppered the container, allowing each brother to look inside. I've kept it through slavery, through imprisonment, through rise to power. never refilling it completely, leaving space to remember thirst. The significance registers differently on each brother's face: shame on Reuben's, solemnity on Judah's, tearful recognition on Benjamin's. Today we complete what began here, Yusuf continues. Then you cast me into darkness, believing you ended a dreamer's aspirations. Now, we commit sacred knowledge to darkness, preserving dreams for generations unborn. He gestures to the scrolls they carry. One by one, each brother removes protective coverings from their assigned texts. These contain portions of divine revelation, prophecies concerning our people's future, laws to govern their conduct, wisdom to guide their relationships, Yusuf explains, separately incomplete, together forming covenant. From his robe he produces sealed clay containers. Place each scroll within these vessels. They will protect against moisture and decay for centuries if necessary. As they carefully transfer sacred texts to preservation vessels, Yusuf performs a ritual purification using the remaining drops from his water skin. He sprinkles each container, each brother, and finally the well itself. From emptiness came fullness, from betrayal came redemption, from darkness came enlightenment. He pours the final drop into the well. So let it be with all who encounter these teachings in future generations. The brothers lower the vessels into the well using ropes brought for this purpose. Judah marks the location with arranged stones that appear natural to casual observation, but form specific patterns, meaningful to those who know what to seek. Now the covenant rests in earth-safe keeping until needed, Yusuf says, as they complete this solemn task. Just as I once waited in darkness for divine timing. As they prepare to return to the city, the strange light condenses directly above the well, briefly illuminating its depths with unearthly brilliance before returning to its previous state. A sign of acceptance, Benjamin whispers. Yusuf nods, looking toward the western horizon where the sun approaches its daily death. We must hurry back. The final gathering awaits before sunset. Afternoon shadows stretch across the palace courtyard as Yusuf returns from the desert journey. A servant approaches with unusual hesitation, bowing deeply before speaking. My lord, visitors await you in the reception hall. They insisted on seeing you before sunset. Their names, Yusuf asks, noting the servant's discomfort. Potiphar, former captain of Pharaoh's guard, and his wife. The brothers exchange startled glances. These names represent the darkest period of Yusuf's Egyptian years, his false accusation, imprisonment, and near execution. I will see them, Yusuf decides after brief contemplation, alone. Brother, is that wise? Judah questions. That woman's lies stole years of your life and gave me years of preparation I needed. Yusuf counters. Divine purpose works through human failings. He directs the brothers to continue preparation for evening ceremonies, then follows the servant to a small reception room where an elderly couple waits. Potiphar, once an imposing military commander, now stands slightly stooped, supporting himself with a carved staff. His wife, whose false accusation of attempted seduction sent Yusuf to prison, sits with head bowed, her once renowned beauty faded, but still discernible. Beside them on a small table rests an object that catches the room's light, iron shackles, the very restraints Yusuf wore during his imprisonment. You keep unusual mementos of our history, Yusuf observes, gesturing toward the chains. Potiphar speaks first. We bring them not as reminder, but as request. His wife finally looks up, her eyes revealing decades of carried guilt. We heard of your impending transition. Before you depart this world, we seek what we do not deserve. Forgiveness, Potiphar clarifies unnecessarily. Yusuf approaches the table, lifting the heavy chains with hands that once bore their marks. These represented justice to some, injustice to others. To me, they were simply instruments of divine preparation. He studies the elderly woman whose false accusation altered his life's trajectory. You have carried heavier chains than these for 40 years, have you not? She nods, tears forming. No punishment ordered by courts could exceed what conscience has inflicted. I have relived my lie daily while watching you rise to become Egypt's savior. The lie was mutual, her husband admits. I knew your character even then, yet chose political expediency over truth. My advancement came through your suffering. Yusuf places the chains on the table. What you intended for harm, God intended for good. These led directly to Pharaoh's dreams, my interpretation, and Egypt's salvation during famine. The woman shakes her head. Such generous reframing cannot erase my guilt. Perhaps not, Yusuf acknowledges, but it can contextualize it within larger purpose. He moves to stand directly before them. I forgave you both decades ago, when I first stood before Pharaoh. Holding resentment would have clouded divine insight when it was most needed. Potiphar's weathered face registers disbelief. Without conditions, without penance, forgiveness with conditions is merely delayed judgment, Yusuf explains. True forgiveness liberates both giver and receiver. The elderly woman reaches hesitantly toward Yusuf's hand, stopping just short of contact. May I? When he nods permission, she takes his hand in both of hers, examining it as if searching for lingering marks from the shackles. I saw the strange light following you throughout the city today, she says quietly. It confirmed what I've suspected for years. Your God is real, in ways our Egyptian deities are not. The creator of all seeks relationship with all his creation, Yusuf responds. Including both of you. Even now, even us, Potiphar asks, genuine wonder in his voice. Especially now, especially you. Yusuf takes the chains and ceremonially presents them to the couple. Keep these not as instruments of guilt, but as reminders that divine purpose often works through human brokenness. The strange light that has accompanied Yusuf throughout the day suddenly enters the chamber, illuminating the chains until they glow with unexpected brilliance. When the light recedes, the metal has transformed, the locks broken open, the links separated but not severed. A sign for you, Yusuf interprets, bondage ended without destroying the experiences that shaped us. As the elderly couple prepares to leave, visibly lightened by this unexpected absolution, Potiphar turns back with one final question. After witnessing your ascent from prisoner to prophet-ruler, I abandoned our traditional gods. But I've worshipped from distance, uncertain of welcome. May we join your people's covenant community. The covenant extends to all who recognize the Creator's sovereignty, Yusuf assures him. There will be a gathering at sunset. Come and witness the completion of what your actions unknowingly began. After they depart, Yusuf remains briefly with the transformed chains. He arranges them in a circular pattern that resembles the well where his journey began, a physical representation of his life's journey from pit to palace, from prisoner to prophet, from victim to victor. Deep within the palace complex lies a chamber, unknown even to most royal architects. Hidden behind a false wall in Yusuf's private study, the rectangular room houses Egypt's most comprehensive collection of sacred writings, not only Hebrew texts, but wisdom gathered from diverse traditions during Yusuf's decades of leadership. Late afternoon light filters through cleverly designed air shafts, illuminating shelves of carefully categorized scrolls. Unlike the family vault visited earlier, this collection serves not merely preservation, but active study, a repository of living wisdom rather than sealed history. Yusuf enters with selected brothers and trusted advisors, including Benjamin, Judah, Levi, and 2 Egyptian scholars who have embraced monotheistic understanding. The strange celestial light accompanying him throughout the day penetrates even here, casting unusual shadows that seem to animate the scroll cases. What we safeguard here exceeds mere historical record, Yusuf explains, gesturing toward the carefully arranged collection. These scrolls contain divine revelation spanning from creation through our present time. He approaches a central table where 7 particularly ornate scroll cases rest on pedestals of varying heights. Each bears symbols corresponding to different epochs of human spiritual development. These represent the core revelation entrusted to our lineage, Yusuf continues. From Adam's original understanding through Noah's covenant, Abraham's calling, Isaac's obedience, Jacob's transformation, and our current chapter. Benjamin examines the cases with scholarly reverence, and the 7th, it bears symbols I cannot interpret. Future revelation, Yusuf answers, space prepared for what has been prophesied, but not yet received. The 7th seal remains unopened until its appointed time. Levi, the family's designated record keeper, steps forward. How shall we divide this responsibility? No single person can protect all this knowledge. Yusuf nods in agreement. Precisely why division becomes our protection strategy. Each of you will safeguard different portions according to your strengths and callings. He begins assigning specific scrolls to each person present. Benjamin, take the prophetic writings. Your contemplative nature suits their preservation. Judah, the royal scrolls concerning governance and leadership fall to your line. Levite genealogical records and ritual instructions align with your meticulous character. To his Egyptian scholars, he assigns philosophical texts that bridge Hebrew revelation with wisdom acceptable to Egyptian understanding, strategic cultural translation for future generations. What of the seventh case? Benjamin asks, gesturing toward the unopened scroll. It remains here, sealed until the appointed revealer comes, Yusuf explains. Some knowledge belongs to future generations, not ours. As they carefully gather their assigned materials, Yusuf provides specific instructions for preservation methods, which scrolls require cedar oil treatments, which need regular unwinding to prevent brittleness, which must be recopied every 7th year to ensure textual accuracy. The greatest threat to divine revelation is not destruction but distortion, he cautions. Preserve not only the words but their intended meaning. Context surrounds text like air surrounds life, invisible but essential. He demonstrates specialized preservation techniques for different writing materials: papyrus, parchment, clay tablets. Each requires unique care to survive centuries of potential neglect. There will come periods when this wisdom falls from favor, Yusuf warns. Generations who dismiss ancestral knowledge as irrelevant. During such times, preservation becomes your primary obligation, keeping divine revelation intact until receptive hearts re-emerge. The strange light suddenly intensifies, illuminating hidden glyphs on the chamber walls, symbols invisible under normal conditions. They form a complex map of future migration routes, sanctuary locations, and hidden repositories spanning from Egypt to Canaan and beyond. Memorize these pathways, Yusuf instructs. When persecution comes, and it will come, these routes will guide our people to safety. Judah studies the glowing symbols with strategic assessment. This suggests widespread dispersion rather than unified settlement, unity of faith rather than location. Yusuf confirms, our people will scatter like seeds, carrying divine truth to distant lands. What appears as defeat will become divine strategy for broader influence. He establishes a verification system, specific questions and responses to confirm authentic teaching across generations. False prophets will arise claiming revelation. This protocol will distinguish truth from counterfeits. As they complete preparations, Yusuf performs a final ritual, anointing each scroll carrier with oil pressed from trees grown on Jacob's original Canaanite property. You carry not merely ancient words but living covenant, he explains as the oil glistens on their foreheads. Let your lives embody the wisdom you preserve. The strange light recedes as they exit the chamber, its mission completed. The scrolls have been divided, the knowledge secured, the carriers commissioned. Divine revelation will continue its journey through human history, preserved not by buildings or institutions, but by faithful individuals who recognize their temporary role in an eternal story. The great banquet hall glows with golden light from hundreds of oil lamps. Servants have arranged 3 long tables in a configuration resembling the Hebrew letter Shin, symbol of divine presence. At the center where the tables converge stands a simple clay jar containing preserved grain from Egypt's 7 years of abundance, physical reminder of divine provision during famine. Guests file in according to carefully planned seating arrangements. Yusuf's brothers and their families occupy one table, Egyptian officials and nobles another, while religious leaders from various traditions, including both temple priests and Hebrew elders, fill the third. This deliberate integration represents Yusuf's lifelong mission to build bridges between divergent cultures and faiths. Yusuf enters last, accompanied by Asnat and their sons. He wears simple garments rather than official regalia, though the strange celestial light that has followed him throughout the day provides more magnificent illumination than any royal adornment could offer. The assembled guests rise in respect. Though most have heard rumors about Yusuf's impending transition, the atmosphere reflects celebration rather than mourning, exactly as he requested. Be seated, friends and family. Yusuf begins. This feast commemorates completion, not ending. Cycles closing so new ones may begin. Servants bring the first course, bitter herbs and unleavened bread, symbolizing hardship transformed through divine intervention. As the meal progresses, each carefully selected dish carries symbolic significance, connecting past struggles with present blessings. Between courses, Yusuf addresses the gathering with purposeful words. Today I have completed official duties and transferred authorities, but relationships transcend positions and wisdom outlasts administrations. He gestures toward his brothers, seated according to birth order. These men represent our human journey, from jealousy to reconciliation, from betrayal to restoration. Through them, observe how divine purpose works through human weakness. One by one he acknowledges each brother's distinctive contribution. Reuben's passion tempered by experience, Simeon's strength channeled toward protection rather than aggression, Levi's precision applied to sacred record-keeping, Judah's leadership enriched by humility, continuing through all 12 tribal heads. To the Egyptian officials, he speaks of responsible governance and ethical leadership. Power serves purpose beyond itself. Authority proves its legitimacy through justice for the vulnerable. The preserved grain jar circulates during these remarks, each guest touching it briefly, connecting physically with the salvation story that defined Yusuf's public role. When the jar returns to the center table, Yusuf addresses succession plans. Leadership transitions, but covenant continues. My sons Manasseh and Ephraim will oversee family enterprises, while Benjamin becomes primary spiritual guide for our people. He outlines governance structures designed to maintain Hebrew community identity within Egyptian society, a balance of integration without assimilation, participation without compromise. Potiphar and his wife, seated among honored guests despite their complicated history with Yusuf, receive special acknowledgement. These two represent transformation possible for anyone who embraces truth. Their presence reminds us that reconciliation transcends human justice. As the main feast concludes, servants bring special bread and wine for a covenant renewal ceremony, a ritual Yusuf established decades earlier to commemorate divine faithfulness. This bread represents provision in barren places, he explains, breaking it into 12 portions for the brothers. This wine symbolizes joy extracted from suffering's pressure. The Egyptian officials observe with respectful curiosity, while Hebrew participants engage with reverent familiarity. This ceremony has become foundational for their community identity. Yusuf turns attention to the youngest generation present, grandchildren and great-grandchildren, representing the covenant's future. He calls them forward by family groups, placing hands upon their heads with specific blessings tailored to each child's observed character and potential. You will live to see what we have only glimpsed, he tells them. Your children will experience what prophets have only envisioned. Carry these memories when external circumstances challenge internal faith. As the blessing ceremony concludes, the strange light intensifies dramatically, casting multiple rainbows across the banquet hall. Thunder rumbles despite cloudless skies, and the ground trembles slightly beneath their feet. Conversations halt as all present sense these events exceed natural phenomena. The Egyptian officials appear disconcerted while Hebrew elders exchange knowing glances. The signs confirm our gathering's significance, Yusuf acknowledges calmly. Heaven attests to earth's proceedings when covenant moments unfold. He raises his cup one final time. Let this feast conclude with commitment rather than mere sentiment. Each return to your responsibilities, carrying not just memory but mandate. As guests begin departing with subdued reverence, Yusuf motions for his immediate family and brothers to remain. The public ceremonies have concluded, he tells them quietly, but our most sacred obligations require privacy. Meet me in my personal chambers when the evening star appears. Midnight finds Yusuf alone in his private chamber, kneeling upon the prayer rug that has accompanied him through decades of communion with the divine. The simple wool mat bears witness to countless conversations between prophet and creator, its fibers worn thin at precisely the spots where knees and forehead have pressed in submission thousands of times. Outside, the strange celestial light continues its vigil, filtering through latticed windows to cast geometric patterns across the room's stone floor. The palace sleeps, though guards remain alert, more from habit than necessity on this unprecedented night, when cosmic signs have rendered ordinary precautions meaningless. Yusuf's prayer begins with traditional words of praise, the ancient Hebrew phrases flowing with practiced reverence. But as minutes pass, formality dissolves into intimate dialogue, the comfortable exchange of one completing a long journey in partnership with divine guidance. "My lord," he whispers, weathered hands upturned in supplication, "from slave pit to prison cell to palace chambers, you have walked beside me. Through betrayal, false accusation, unexpected elevation, your purpose remained when human intentions shifted like desert sand." He touches the prayer rug's frayed edge, remembering how he acquired it, a gift from a fellow prisoner who died the very day before Yusuf's unexpected release. Another thread in the tapestry of divine timing that has defined his extraordinary life. "I have seen your hand in famine and abundance, in reconciliation and governance." The dreams of youth found fulfillment beyond imagination, yet their meaning transcends mere personal validation. The strange light intensifies, concentrating into a vertical column at the chamber's center. Within its shimmering boundaries, familiar faces appear momentarily. Yaqub, his beloved father, smiling with pride. Rachel, the mother he barely knew, radiant with maternal love. Abraham, Isaac, and other patriarchs, whose legacies he has preserved through his appointed role. The covenant chain remains unbroken, Yusuf acknowledges, each link connecting earth to heaven through mortal vessels carrying immortal truth. His prayer shifts to intercession for those he leaves behind, brothers who will guide the growing tribes, sons who will preserve administrative stability, Egyptian colleagues balancing competing loyalties, common people dependent on wise governance during uncertain times. Protect Benjamin from the burden of new responsibility. Guard Judah against pride as leadership passes to his line. Strengthen Asnat through separation until we reunite beyond the veil. The column of light widens, revealing glimpses of future events, Hebrew settlements expanding throughout Egypt's northeastern frontier, subsequent generations forgetting both Joseph's contributions and faith heritage, new pharaohs implementing increasingly restrictive policies, eventual enslavement and suffering. "I accept that persecution forms part of their journey," Yusuf prays, tears flowing freely. "But sustain their identity through oppression, preserve the covenant seed until deliverance comes." Further visions unfold, a Hebrew infant rescued from death by Egyptian princess, plagues demonstrating divine sovereignty over false gods, dramatic exodus through parted waters, wilderness wandering, mountain revelation, promised land entry. "Their liberation will reveal your nature more profoundly than my elevation did," Yusuf acknowledges with prophetic insight. "Through hardship they will discover strength their current prosperity conceals." The light column reconfigures, offering glimpses of a realm beyond physical perception, divine courts where departed faithful await future reunion with their mortal descendants. The indescribable peace emanating from these scenes transcends earthly understanding. "I am ready," Yusuf states simply, "not from weariness but from completion. The assigned chapters of my earthly story reach their conclusion. The eternal narrative continues." He rises slowly from the prayer rug, his aging body momentarily transcending physical limitations as divine energy flows through his frame. Standing fully upright, he appears briefly as he did in his prime, the young interpreter of dreams whose insights saved nations. "One final request," he adds, lifting the prayer rug and folding it with reverent precision. "Let my bones eventually return to Canaan. Though Egypt provided refuge, our ancestral soil remains covenant ground for final rest." As he completes this prayer, the chamber fills with fragrance inexplicable by natural means, essence of cedars from Lebanon, flowering almond from Canaan's hills, spices from distant lands Yusuf has never physically visited, but recognizes through divine impartation. The light column dissipates, though its residual glow remains, as Yusuf places the folded prayer rug on a simple cedar chest, containing his most personal possessions, items designated for family distribution after his transition. "It is enough," he whispers, peace settling over his countenance as he prepares to rejoin the waiting family members for his final earthly instructions, before dawn approaches. Pre-dawn darkness blankets the palace as Yusuf's family and brothers gather in his private study. Oil lamps cast warm light across concerned faces, each person sensing the gravity of these final hours. Upon a central table rests an ornate scroll sealed with Yusuf's personal emblem, the formal succession document prepared through months of careful consideration. Yusuf enters from his prayer chamber, his countenance bearing unusual serenity, despite the occasion's solemnity. The strange celestial light that has followed him throughout the day now forms a subtle aura around his figure, visible even in the lamplit room. "My beloved ones," he begins, surveying the gathering. "The formal ceremonies have concluded. What remains concerns covenant rather than kingdom, family rather than position." He gestures toward the succession scroll. "This document establishes governance structures for our community within Egypt. Study it carefully after my departure. Its provisions anticipate challenges you cannot yet imagine. Benjamin steps forward to accept custodianship of the scroll, his scholarly nature making him most suitable for interpreting its complex provisions. We will honor your foresight, brother. Beyond administrative matters lies spiritual succession, Yusuf continues. Each of you carries specific responsibility for preserving different aspects of our covenant heritage. He turns to his brothers individually, assigning specialized duties according to their natural strengths. Benjamin, your contemplative spirit suits you for preserving prophetic understanding. Guide our people in distinguishing true divine communication from false claims. Judah, leadership flows naturally through your line. Maintain the balance between authority and humility that dignifies rather than dominates. Levi, continue your meticulous record-keeping. When history threatens to erase our origins, your documentation will restore truth. To each remaining brother, Yusuf assigns specific covenant aspects: hospitality traditions, ethical business practices, ceremonial observances, educational methods, conflict resolution protocols. Distributing these responsibilities creates resilience, he explains. If persecution targets one aspect, others survive to maintain our distinct identity. Turning to his sons Manasseh and Ephraim, he addresses their unique position as bridges between Hebrew heritage and Egyptian culture. You embody integration without assimilation, maintaining covenant distinctiveness while engaging constructively with surrounding society. Asnat, standing quietly nearby, receives special recognition. The women's traditions I have entrusted separately to my wife. Their preservation requires different methods than written documents. He retrieves a wooden box containing soil from Canaan, brought by Jacob decades earlier and preserved for this moment. Mix this with burial soil when my time comes. Though I have served Egypt faithfully, my roots and final resting belong in covenant land. Moving to specific burial instructions, Yusuf addresses practical matters with surprising directness. Embalm my body according to Egyptian methods. This honors the culture I've served, but forego excessive ceremony that contradicts our beliefs. He emphasizes his most important request: when God eventually delivers our people from Egypt, and this will surely happen, though centuries may pass, carry my bones to Canaan for final burial. This physical return symbolizes covenant continuity across generations. The assembled family listens with tears flowing freely yet restrained, honoring Yusuf's preference for dignity over emotional display during these critical instructions. There will be dark times ahead, he continues with prophetic insight, periods when Egypt forgets my contribution and oppresses our people, when pharaohs arise who know neither Joseph nor his God. His voice strengthens as he delivers promises alongside warnings, but covenant outlasts oppression. 400 years may pass in bondage, yet deliverance will come through signs greater than those you witness today. The strange light suddenly intensifies, revealing a map of Canaan etched momentarily across the study floor. Tribal allocations not yet implemented, but divinely predetermined. The vision lasts barely moments before receding, though all present recognize its significance. Remember this glimpse, Yusuf instructs. Tell your children and your children's children. The promised inheritance remains secure, despite intervening hardships. As pre-dawn light begins penetrating the eastern windows, Yusuf delivers his final charge. Do not worship my memory. Honor instead the God who transformed a slave into a savior, who brings life from death, abundance from emptiness, restoration from brokenness. He rises, signaling the instruction's completion. Now, accompany me to the eastern courtyard. The appointed hour approaches when heaven's light will fully claim its own. Dawn breaks unlike any in living memory. The sky above Egypt transforms into a canvas of supernatural phenomena, impossible star patterns, visible despite growing daylight, solar halos refracting into colors beyond normal spectrum, cloud formations arranging themselves into recognizable symbols from ancient prophecies. Word spreads rapidly through the city. Common people abandon morning routines to witness the unprecedented celestial display. Palace astronomers rush to their observation platforms, clutching bronze astrolabes and calculation tablets as they attempt to document what defies scientific explanation. In the palace courtyard, Yusuf stands surrounded by family and close advisors. His expression reflects peaceful recognition rather than surprise. These signs confirm rather than reveal, their timing precisely as foretold in dreams decades earlier. The heavens declare what earth has witnessed, he observes, pointing towards specific configurations above. Each symbol corresponds to covenant stages, from Adam through our present moment. The chief astronomer approaches with reverent hesitation, his astrolabe trembling in aged hands. My lord, we have no records of such alignments in any dynasty's archives. The stars form patterns, matching your Hebrew symbols rather than our Egyptian constellations. Because today heaven speaks in original language, Yusuf explains, the cosmic dialect that preceded human divisions. As morning advances, crowds gather outside palace walls. People from every Egyptian social class intermingle with Hebrew settlers, all differences temporarily forgotten as they collectively witness phenomena transcending cultural boundaries. Yusuf addresses the gathered astronomers and priests from various traditions. Record these signs accurately, without interpretation bias. Future generations will reference your observations when similar alignments recur at appointed intervals. He points toward specific celestial arrangements, explaining their significance with remarkable precision. That configuration announces covenant renewal. Those intersecting lights represent divine promise, spanning human failing. The spiral formation signifies eternal truth, penetrating temporal understanding. The astronomers document frantically, struggling to capture ephemeral patterns that shift with subtle purpose, each transition revealing new symbolic aspects of divine communication. These signs speak to all peoples, Yusuf continues, not exclusively to covenant communities. Creation addresses creation in universal grammar. As the morning progresses, additional phenomena manifest. Birds from incompatible habitats gather in mixed flocks, circling in formations that mirror celestial patterns above. Wind currents form audible harmonics as they pass through city structures. The Nile temporarily flows with increased clarity, its bottom visible to unprecedented depths. Egyptian religious leaders appear increasingly disturbed, recognizing clear challenges to their traditional cosmology, yet they cannot deny the evidence overwhelming their senses. Several younger priests approach Yusuf directly, seeking explanation their own traditions cannot provide. Your Hebrew understanding seems to anticipate these signs, one admits. Our sacred texts mention nothing comparable. Because your texts begin with human observation, Yusuf replies without condescension. Ours begin with divine revelation, records of Creator communicating with creation from the beginning. The strange light that has followed Yusuf throughout his final day now expands to illuminate the entire courtyard, creating a sanctuary-like space within its boundaries. Those standing within this light report sensations of peace, transcending ordinary emotional experience. Sensing the moment's significance, Yusuf delivers a final public address, not from prepared text, but from direct inspiration flowing through his mortal frame. Today, heaven and earth converse without intermediary. Remember this convergence when future divisions suggest false separation between spiritual and physical realms. All creation forms unified testimony to its originator. He gestures toward the astronomical phenomena continuing overhead. These signs announce transition, not merely my personal departure, but covenant progression into new chapter. What began with individual patriarchs extends to tribal community, eventually expanding to all nations. The strange light intensifies further, temporarily obscuring normal vision while enhancing spiritual perception. Those present later report glimpsing realities, typically invisible to physical senses, dimensional aspects beyond height, width and depth, beings neither fully human nor completely other, past and future events simultaneously accessible. Annual commemorations will help future generations connect with today's revelation, Yusuf instructs. Establish observances that remember not the man but the message, not Joseph but the God who spoke through temporary human vessel. As the supernatural light begins concentrating toward the palace's eastern chamber, Yusuf delivers his final public words. I go now to complete transition. You remain to implement revelation. The covenant continues through your faithfulness when spectacular signs give way to ordinary days requiring extraordinary trust. With quiet dignity, he turns toward his private chambers, family members following in solemn procession. Behind them, the celestial phenomena continue their elaborate testimony, witnessed by thousands who will transmit this experience to future generations through stories that eventual skeptics will dismiss as exaggeration until similar signs reappear at Covenant's next critical transition point. The throne room stands empty, save for Yusuf himself. Unlike the ornate seat of power used for official functions, this private chamber contains a simple cedar chair, unadorned except for 12 small stars carved into its back, representing the brothers whose reconciliation formed his life's most meaningful achievement. Afternoon sun streams through eastern windows, mingling with the supernatural light that has accompanied him throughout this final day. The combined illumination creates an atmosphere that seems to vibrate with anticipation, as if the very air recognizes the imminent threshold between worlds. Yusuf moves with deliberate calm, touching various objects that have marked significant moments in his extraordinary journey. The silver cup that tested his brother's loyalty, the signet ring that symbolized his authority, the weathered staff that supported him from slavery through rulership. From shepherd boy to dream interpreter, to prisoner to vizier, he reflects aloud, each role temporary, each a preparation for understanding that all earthly positions serve merely as classrooms for eternal lessons. He seats himself on the throne one final time, not from pride but from symbolic completion. The circle that began with prophetic dreams of others bowing now concludes with willful surrender to higher authority. The supernatural light intensifies dramatically, coalescing into distinct forms that only partially translate into human perception. Beings neither fully corporeal nor completely ethereal manifest within the chamber, angelic presences whose appearance simultaneously awes and comforts. The escort arrives precisely as foretold. Yusuf acknowledges without fear, neither early nor delayed, as with every divine appointment throughout my journey. The angelic figures arrange themselves in ceremonial formation, their movements suggesting protocol established before time's beginning. Though they produce no audible sound, Yusuf responds as if hearing clear communication. "I am ready," he answers. The farewells are complete, the instructions delivered, the legacy secured. Momentarily, the dimensional boundaries thin further, allowing brief appearances by departed loved ones. Jacob's distinct presence emerges most clearly, the beloved father, whose favoritism inadvertently launched Yusuf's painful but purposeful journey. "Father," Yusuf whispers, joy illuminating his aged face, "you see now the complete picture that your faith grasped partially." Other ancestral figures appear briefly, Abraham, Isaac and patriarchs, whose covenant legacy Yusuf has preserved through his strategic position in Egypt. Their expressions convey approval and welcome rather than judgment or evaluation. The supernatural light begins to transform Yusuf himself. His physical form remains visible, but increasingly translucent, as if two realities claim him simultaneously. Years seem to melt away, not returning youth exactly, but revealing the eternal essence typically hidden beneath temporal appearance. With calm acceptance, he rises from the throne that will remain conspicuously empty after his departure. A visual reminder to all who enter that authority has transferred rather than terminated. The vessel returns to dust, he acknowledges without regret, while the spirit reunites with its source. The chamber door opens quietly as family members enter, brothers, sons, wife and close associates, sensing the culmination approaching. They arrange themselves around the room's perimeter, witnesses to transcendence rather than participants in transition. Benjamin steps forward slightly, receiving silent commission as spiritual successor. Judah moves beside him, accepting parallel responsibility for administrative leadership. The others find their positions according to roles assigned during earlier instructions. The supernatural light reaches blinding intensity while paradoxically allowing clearer perception. Those present report later that physical limitations temporarily lifted, allowing perception of multiple dimensions simultaneously, past and future events concurrently visible, spiritual realities tangibly present alongside material existence. Yusuf rises, turning to face his family one final time, his physical appearance now seeming almost incidental to his essential presence. "Remember not the man but the message, not the vessel but the content, not the servant but the master." The throne stands empty now as he moves to the chamber's center where light concentrates most intensely.
His final words emerge with perfect clarity, despite the overwhelming radiance. The covenant continues through you now. Preserve truth through coming darkness until greater light emerges. Egypt provided sanctuary for development, but Canaan remains our promised inheritance. When deliverance comes, remember to carry my bones home. His form becomes fully absorbed into the light, physical presence transitioning completely to spiritual reality. The throne remains conspicuously vacant, not as symbol of absence, but as testimony to completed purpose. As the supernatural light gradually recedes, it leaves subtle residual illumination that will linger for days, guiding the community through initial transition. The family remains in reverent silence, each processing personal grief alongside cosmic significance. Benjamin finally approaches the empty throne, placing his hand briefly on its smooth wooden surface. The seat remains vacant, he observes, but the teaching fills us completely.